Hey everyone, I've got Theviyan Raj with me. Theviyan has just finished his first round inside the Complete Singer Toolkit, and I thought it would be a good time to interview him about his experiences. So, yes, Theviyan, straight to you. I think the best place to begin this would be if you can just start to, talk about who you are, where you're from, what your background is as a singer.
Mhm. Um, I think for me, my initial introduction to music was not through singing itself. It was through an instrument, which was the drums.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I know that.
yeah. So I learned up to grade six, did you know examinations and all that thing which went along those lines. But then I also realized I think I'm a bit interested in learning how to sing. I realized I could sing a little bit, and then started to train a little bit Carnatic music and then realized that my passion actually lies under Hindustani music. So I've trained a little bit under that. I'm still learning, and yeah, that is just a basic introductory on myself and my experience with music. Very little bit with it. Yeah,
Awesome. So, how long do you think it's been with your Hindustani training? How many years have you studied?
approximately about three to 4 years or so.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was Hindustani music your initiation into singing overall, or have you been singing just generally before that as well?
Yeah. For me, I've been singing before that actually. Initially started out singing a little bit of bhajans, religious organizations. So singing started out through that, I think,
Okay,
for
awesome.
me. And then it slowly drifted into learning or trying to understand singing a little bit more. And that's when Hindustani vocal training came into play. Yeah,
Amazing, amazing. So, I mean, I remember that form that you had filled, which I get everyone to fill, right, when you're signing up for the first
correct.
introductory session. And you had a few things that you had listed out. I believe one
Mhm.
was trouble singing high notes, and you said that you had a lot of facial tension, also running out of breath, which we have over time seen that has stood out as a big
Yeah.
issue. But I think, I mean, I'm not sure how you discovered me and my work, must have been through Instagram. But what were you feeling and thinking at the point when you decided to enroll or even thought of checking this out? What challenges were you, going through at that point vocally?
Right. I think that's interesting. An interesting question, and I've actually sat and pondered upon it. I think what was going on initially, Vilasha, was through Hindustani vocal training, right? I just felt that there were some gaps
Mm.
that I needed to fill on my understanding itself. Because I think the understanding on vocal technique or voice seemed to be a little bit more abstract in that school of thought for me, per se. Never kind of understood the biology of voice until I actually came to you.
Mm.
And the mindset that I had was, look, I'm having range issues. I'm having tension in my jaw. And I just probably have to work harder to get rid of those. And I think that seemed to be a very vague remedy at the given moment for me because I was kind of left in the dark.
Oh.
I had to try a lot of things, so much so I would get, a suggestion saying that you should probably sing louder. And by doing so, I would probably end up injuring myself and
Mm.
not being able to sing the next 2 to 3 days or so.
Okay.
So when I actually joined the course, I was actually seeking out for guidance in that aspect of vocal training or singing itself per se. Because again, from where I come from, um, as cliche as it sounds, singing was not to impress but to express. But whenever I tried to do so, it just never seemed to happen because I was just going through so much of tension and I didn't
Mm.
feel comfortable doing it. So that's when I felt like, oh, somebody is talking about things like this, and maybe I should just see what she has to say further.
Awesome.
And that's when I just gave, a fluke shot of filling up the form, and then 1 year later, here I am. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And you've been incredibly regular and you've been one of the most sort of you've been there for the whole year and seen you've, I think, made the most out of at least the sessions that we've had, right? You've always been there. Based off of what we talk about, you may have gone ahead and explored a bunch of other things by yourself as well.
Yep.
So, what roads has it led you to, and what new direction have you found in the way you train now?
Mhm.
Now that you've been exposed to this way of thinking.
Mm. I think you touched very much upon the way we perceive how we train right now. I think that has been like a key shift. There's been a major shift in that direction. But also, I kind of understood that the voice is just not a standalone object. It's just not that alone. But there's just so much of thing happening within the body itself that I am seeing the voice as a whole ecosystem which is happening within the body.
I like.
The voice alone, or the yeah, I never understood the concept of how even the voice operates. To be honest, yeah, that's how dumb I was in that
I
aspect
mean,
of it.
you're not dumb,
Yeah, in
but
that aspect, yeah, per
yeah,
se.
yeah,
But like, I kind of understood that you needed to understand how your instrument works, and the instrument is just not lying in your vocal cords, but it runs way deeper than that.
yeah.
So that was where I felt this particular course per se has brought me to a deeper understanding on myself.
Mhm.
Leave the voice aside, leave singing aside, but I felt like I could understand myself better throughout this
Can you
on a
elaborate
biological aspect.
a
Yeah.
bit more on that?
Yeah, because I felt like I could feel parts that I've never felt before. And for those who are going to be enrolling themselves into this whole program, trust me, it's going to blow your mind when you sit down for practice and you feel things just crop up, and you understand that this is what you are.
Yeah,
And when we talk about registers, we try to dissect them down. This is the chest, that's the head, blah blah blah. But when you realize, no, this is just you as a totality. That's where I felt there has been a major shift in perspective.
yeah,
Because again, coming back from what I have been learning, these were the gaps that I was harping upon, where certain registers are not focused on, are also to a certain extent neglected because they believe that that would not be the best way to articulate.
correct.
But I realized that if your whole purpose is to express, then everything works in a holistic manner. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's precisely what I discovered too in the beginning, which actually pushed me down this road.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, and it's a very dense body of work. Let me just put it that way. It's dense,
Mm.
and it's definitely not for the casual learner who's maybe looking for a few exercises or a few quick fixes. And I feel the need to say that because there is virtually no way I can put into one line or one paragraph as to what we do here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True, true, true,
Everything.
true.
Yeah. But that being said, I would love to know from someone who's not even maybe, I mean, I know that you don't aspire to do this professionally. You just love singing enough to,
Mm-hmm.
really dig deep. How do you think this might contribute to someone's overall longevity, health, even their ability to sound better? Or rather, let me put this question in another way. What do you think it would cost a person to not know
Because
this?
I personally have seen this one person who, despite many years of singing at one particular point, just completely lost their voice. And they didn't know how to recover from that actually. And they're still at that phase.
Mm.
And I think this whole course or this work itself enables you to understand that if you go through a particular singing difficulty specifically, you know how you can overcome from that. It makes you self-sustainable in that sense, I think. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're right. And
Mm.
that's precisely what this is. I think it's hard to know how awesome this work can become in recovery and also in enhancing what you've already got
Mhm.
until unfortunately you end up hitting a solid roadblock. But I
Mm.
also believe that for people who don't or haven't hit a roadblock as well, you don't have to
True.
benefit from
True.
this.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
The subtle shifts that come up in a lot of people think, well, I've been studying for so long and I sound good already.
Hmm.
But then you realize you've sort of barely scratched the surface and you can sound like insanely good, which was the case with me. I think
Mm.
none of us in the course are bad singers. We all sound good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so, in that context, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are,
Hmm.
there is room for not just growth in a generic sense. Well, you're a student for life. I don't mean it like that. Like real tangible differences, no matter what
Hmm.
you are.
Hmm.
Okay. And speaking about, I think, not so generic things, but really about you and your voice in particular, I have seen it go up and down through the whole year. And I generally want to know, like, what areas of your singing have improved.
Hmm.
And not just that, I would say now knowing what you know, how are you going to lead yourselves through your singing training in the future, and what gives you hope?
Mm. I think I will start off with your question of what gives you hope. understanding that there is a particular manner to work on things that I never knew I could work on. I think that gives me hope in the sense that if you want to build on your range, especially for me, I think my initial problems were my range, um, jaw tension, things like this actually, which I could never find a cure for on a personal note. Although multiple forms of resources are out there on YouTube, even Instagram, right? They were not put out in this manner, which I could perceive or I could actually work on. And in this, throughout this 1 year, I felt like what actually stood out for me and what helped me out was right now, I feel like I can work on my range. My range has grown. Of course, like you mentioned, I did have my ups and my downs throughout this whole course. But leading on or moving forward from here, I feel like if I were to go down a dark pit, I know how to come out of it. I think that is where mm, I feel this whole course has brought me to. Yeah.
Things that, because you've had previous training, and that's why I ask you this, there's a lot of misinformation there in terms of how to go about solving a few problems. Now, for
Mm,
instance, there is one, and we were talking about this yesterday actually, wherein
mhm,
people say, hey, you know what, just feel it, feel the
mm.
emotion, or just sing more, or push yourselves, or whatever else, sing from your stomach. There are so many.
Exactly, exactly. So many vague statements like we
Yes.
talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot that is said out there which someone might well benefit from because it is an idea and it has existed for a long time. But I do think there are a lot of myths and misconceptions that exist within every singer's mind, especially if you've had a classical background in Indian music. It just is a thing,
Mm,
in my experience. No offense to any style or anything like that, but then I
definitely.
would love to know what myths or what misconceptions maybe you had in the beginning, or what this basically threw light upon, or
Okay.
and what are you now sort of like, this way of this statement or this way of thinking, I'm not going to go there. I know people throw it at me, but I'm not bothered.
Definitely, I think one thing you have brought into light was for us to actually find out by doing a lot of self-discovery as well to a certain extent. But in terms of shedding light, I think one major, it's not a myth, I would say, but like a very vague statement that is usually put out. Don't sing from your throat, sing from your stomach. And I think you just mentioned that as well. You're like, yeah, I can try to, but where does this, where am I starting from? Where is the sound actually emerging from? And then once again, if you come to the cause, you will know where the sound or where the breath should be diverted to for you to actually be
A
able
whole
to
year.
bring out that sort of a tonality or whatever you want to call it. And apart from that, when they say push yourself harder or work harder, it's not about working harder, but it's about working correctly. I think that's very important as well.
Yes.
Yeah, you can try to work on range. I've heard people tell me, like, again, sing louder so you can hit those ranges, and slowly over time, you will probably build on that. I don't think that's the way to go about it right now. If anybody were to come and tell me back that same thing, I will say I don't sort of vibe that way anymore. Yeah. Because again, initially you don't know. So you're like, yeah, maybe we should give it a try. You have not tried this yet. You have not tried that.
Yeah.
And there are so many people talking about it.
Yeah.
No offense to whatever that they know or whatever that they've learned from their teachers or etc. etc. But I feel like I'm now grounded to a certain extent. Not just by theory alone, but by actually putting it to practice to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And I think what I also like about, say, your specific situation, but also in my case and a lot of other cases, that this is a long duration, this is 1 year, and definitely it's very hard to be that consistent. And I do acknowledge that. And I do like that people have their ups and downs, but there's a way of essentially knowing that you've overcome this exact problem in the past and you can do it
Yep.
again. And I know a couple of people within the course who've come, gotten better, had a gap, come back again, gotten better, had a gap again.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the idea of having gone through that same cycle of trouble a few times and then overcoming it. But how do you navigate the daily now? Because there is so much uncertainty, right? there's one thing if I say, hey, you know what, Theviyan, try doing this breathing exercises for 30 days and you're going to see a change. But on
Mm,
day 15 or on day 17, when things are not moving that well or they're
mhm,
seemingly going nowhere, how do you tell yourselves that it's worth, continuing and keeping on track?
mm. I think that is a question that I still struggle to answer.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, again, whenever you have actually introduced a new concept to us, you have always instilled to us that this is going to be a very long term effort. And for me as an individual, I've never had this problem of impatience. I want it instantly. I kind of chill
Yeah.
by that, I think. But I mean, it happens. It happens. And despite how patient you can be, right? At times you just want things to work your way. But that's why I think you always like to say that in this whole course, we have a very ahimsa approach where we take it step by step, progressively. And if you don't have 40 minutes a day, you can always work on 15 minutes, and it's still a compounding, advantage to you. So yeah, at the end of the day, you just try. I think it's just simple as that.
What more can one do, right? Great.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, just, to sort of wrap this up, I would love to know, over time, what was that specific moment or a day, maybe through this entire course, or maybe a few occasions when you felt like, I see this is working now, or like,
Mm.
well, I feel like it's moving forward. Was there any such aha moment for you that you'd like to talk about?
Multiple, I think multiple, especially when you work on songs. Yeah, I've seen like myself, come up from probably a B to a C sharp. And when you see that actually happening on a like the quantitative manner, you're like, there is work that is happening. And especially when you get a reaffirmation from people around you, you, for example, Abhilasha, you're like, oh yeah, it should be working then. It is working, right? And these are the aha moments for me, I think, personally. Like I've taken up some songs, I've started really low from the actual scale.
I mean, I do remember how you made almost a 1.5 to 2.5 key hike in one of the songs that you had picked up over a couple of months max.
Yeah, yeah,
I too was very, very encouraged. Of course, there are things that need finessing, but it's there. So yes, your
yeah,
rate has grown. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, even like I said, even if I were to come down back from it, if I were to take a whole new song again, I sort of understand where I stand and what I should be doing. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And just before we go, I would love to know if there was any other sort of byproducts of this work that you have seen. I mean, I know you've touched upon that, but I really do like to talk about it because let me share my experience. Whenever I
Yes,
have
please, please.
gone through this work, I have realized that it has helped my anxiety
Mm,
tremendously. It
mm,
has helped my understanding of how the body is organized, and now I'm working on some alignment issues in my knee and everything. And
mm.
similarly, it has helped my sleep, and I'm also talking about the nervous system stuff these days. So there's so many branches that we shoot into that might just maybe trickle into other parts of your life. So is there any such thing that you may have encountered?
I think I've been repeating on this ever since I started on, but it's just build resilience actually throughout. I think that's the most important thing for me because when you're working from 9 to 6, so much of things happen, but it just keeps you moving forward because there are things that actually take time. And when you do things like this, which really work on a deeper level, I think it slowly, like you said, trickles down into all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And I think resilience is something that this has transpired from into.
Yeah. That's awesome. And just as parting thoughts, Theviyan, what would you say to someone who's considering joining the course? Because you have pretty much seen a lot of it, a lot more of it than a lot of other people have. You've been incredibly regular, and I have so much appreciation for that. But yes, what do you have to say after having been here for a while?
I honestly feel it's a good investment, actually. If you aspire to become a professional singer, or nevertheless, if you just enjoy music and you just want to learn more on the deeper aspects of music or singing itself, per se, I think this would be a really, really good platform to explore that because um, I think I mentioned earlier as well, there are a lot of information outside, but it's just not structured well enough. But I feel like CST has put everything down so well, and you still strive to actually work really hard on, improving it as a whole. And I think more than it being a complete singer toolkit, I think it should be a compulsory singer toolkit actually for every singer. Yeah. So that's honestly how I feel. It's something that everybody needs to know, and I would love for people to actually experience this. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Theviyan. It was wonderful knowing you, and stay in touch.
Definitely, Abhilasha.
Yes.
Pleasure's ours, actually. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything.